Oh yeah, back here with that blaster. Pew pew pew. No, today we're gonna be looking at doing this oil pump and reservoir delete. I don't care to have that oil injection system on the quads, just because I don't ever trust that pump down there is gonna be pumping the oil. I don't want to get a clog in the line. I don't want to have this thing running on straight fuel or straight gas. So yeah, we're gonna get rid of that thing, and we're just gonna do the pre-mix on this bad boy, instead of having the bike do it, because I'm pretty sure we can do it ourselves. Not that difficult. And you know, also this tank's seen better days. It's got a crack all the way down through here. It's kind of leaking down the bottom. Got some other cracks over here on this side in this area. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can kind of see that. And then going down this edge right here. So we're gonna get rid of that, because if you ain't mixing gas, you ain't getting no, I don't know. But anyways, I went on eBay and check out this little sweet kit that I got from Looney Tuners Performance. So they've got this block off plate that goes down on the side behind this cover right here to cover up that pump that we're going to be taking off. And then they've got the little screws that go with that, or the machine bolts to go with that, and a little gasket. And the only other thing that it comes with is this little rubber plug here. And that little rubber plug, if you follow this line right here up to the side of the carburetor, we're going to be pulling this line off, so that little rubber plug goes right there on the carburetor. Pretty simple little system. Kind of an awesome design by these guys over at Looney Tuners Performance. Looks like they're a California company, and shoot, this wasn't even that much money. It was pretty cheap, but it's nice that they put it in a little package for me and get it all ready to go. Yeah, so let me get that out of the package. I'm gonna work on just unbolting this tank from right there and down here on the bottom. And it looks like there might be, yeah, another one back in there. And then I'll just take these wires right here, unplug them and tuck them up underneath the frame, and maybe throw some electrical tape around them or something. So that'll get rid of that whole reservoir there. And once I do that, I'll pull off these hoses here, and I'll crack this open, and we'll give you another shot of what this looks like on the inside after you take this cover plate off. All right, we'll be right back, and stay tuned. Here we are again, taking a look at that oil injection delete that I started on yesterday or the other day. So far, I've gotten to where I've taken the reservoir off the back side of the quad. I took off the hoses that were connecting to this point right here, and I've plugged the carburetor up there on the top with that little orange plug that came in that kit. So the next things that we need to get done and taken care of are the removal of the oil injection pump itself. So that's located behind this cover here. And then those hoses should just slip right through that grommet there once we get it off a little bit farther. Put that there, collect my bolts, throw them in that tray. So, what we need to do to get this off down here is hit it with the Phillips head. There's two bolts right there. One is located right here, and the other is right here. That's actually where that block-off plate's going to be put on the bike. So let's back that out, and voila. Okay, now the next steps here, because I actually, in order to get this off the bike, or this whole pump assembly off the bike, I need to remove this whole side of this case. So what that's going to entail is me draining the oil down here. That's going to be done using a 12 millimeter. And then from there, I'll be working around and hitting these 8 millimeter bolts that are around this whole side of the case. I'm going to actually take off this brake lever and foot peg assembly on this side just to allow me a little bit more access into the bike. I'll also need to take off this nut here. So the foot pegs down there, that's a 14 millimeter, and it looks like we've got one here and one on the bottom side right down there, and then we got another one over here. It looks like, oh, that might be something different. Looks like that may be a 10 millimeter. Yeah, that one's a 10 millimeter. Okay, and then last but not least, this guy right here is a 19 millimeter. Okay, so 19 millimeter, 10 millimeter, 14 millimeter times 2 down there on the bottom, and then the 8 millimeters that are located all the way around that side of the case. But first things first, I'm going to get that oil drained so that I don't get all messy when I try to take that case off. And then once I get to the point where these bolts are all backed out, I'll come back to you and you can kind of see my progress. Okay, we're back, and I got that oil drained out. I released these 2 bolts here. I released this one over here. We took the Kickstarter off, and then I loosened all the bolts around this side of the case. Made sure I blew off most of the debris so I didn't have any nasty gunk falling inside of there. So I should be able to get this off relatively clean. Basically took all my other stuff and set it aside in a little pile so I can find it again. But I also tipped the quad up on its side right like that after I drained the oil. Realistically, you probably could have left the oil and done the same type of thing, because there shouldn't be too much in that bottom end. But I'm going to be replacing that or changing it out anyways, just in case anything drops in there. So it was good for me to do it right now. Another good reason to have these ramps, you can use them as a little bit of a stand while you're working on something on the bottom side of the bike, whether it's this side in the case or the other side in the chain, or just if you need to prop up the front, you can throw it underneath the bike and get the wheels off the ground. Pretty handy. I like having this little ramp. Anyways, so I'm gonna get in there and pull this off, and we'll be back, okay? All right, and I'm back again. I was able to get that cover off and keep this gasket intact all the way around the side of that engine there, and you can kind of see where that oil was pooling up on the bottom. So I'm glad I drained that out of there. I think that was a good choice. But anyways, here's that back side of that case cover, and you can see that oil sight right here, and then there's where our Kickstarter goes through. There's our oil fill plug, and then this guy right here, that's our oil pump. So we need to take this little C-clip off of there, pull the gear back, and then that should drop through that opening enough to where we can just put this all back together and put that cover plate on, or that block off plate on the outside, and be done with this project. So that's what to expect when you go and pull that cover off, okay? That's what you're going to be looking at. So it's good to pull some of this stuff out of the way and just make sure you have enough room. Also make sure that debris from around the engine is cleaned up and you have a good surface to work with, because you don't want to have to be picking stuff out of there like I would be. All right, and I'll be back after I get that gear pulled off, and once I get this case cover set back on there, and we'll be looking at doing that block off plate on the outside. All right, we'll be back in just a second. So I spoke too soon. It looks like once I pulled this gear off, or this C-clip off, and this gear here, I have another little C-clip in place to where I will need to remove that and this little pin before I can push that piece through. I just wanted to make sure you guys knew about that. I'm sure you would have seen it along the way, but wanted to make sure it was in there as well. All right, let me get this side back on, and we'll be off and on to that block-off plate. All right, I'm back again. Man, this thing just keeps on going. So I, after I got that second C-clip off, and I was able to remove this from the side of the case, we had this little rubber seal in place here. So with there not being a shaft on there or anything like that, I just figured it was best to remove it. I didn't want it to come off or out or something happen where it was able to come free and flop around on the inside of this this engine and in that gear housing. I mean, that just wouldn't be too good. So I went ahead and got my little trusty dusty pick tool out, took it down in there and pried it up. So we don't have to worry about that. And also remember that block off plate is going to come with a gasket on the outside, so nothing's going to be able to get through there. Yeah, so don't have to worry about that seal even being there. Okay, now this side cover's ready to go back on. Be back in just a sec. So I got that crankcase cover set into place. All the bolts are just snugged down by hand. On the outside, we won't be needing this anymore, so we'll set that aside. But it said 7.2 foot-pounds of torque to each one of these bolts, so we'll tighten in an alternating pattern all the way around, similar to the way you would on the wheel lugs of a vehicle. So yeah, 7.2 foot-pounds torque all the way around. And then the drain plug, if we wanted to torque that as well, I believe that's at 14 foot-pounds of torque. But this guy right here, that little block off plate, I think I'm just going to do it hand tight and not really measure what kind of foot-pounds that would actually require. So let me get that torqued into place really quick. All right, here it is, that piece we were waiting for, the final part to this little puzzle that we've been working on. So just got to take this. I cleaned off the remaining gasket that was left on there with a little razor knife, and this little part's ready to go in its place. There's our block off plate from Looney Tuner's Performance, and yeah, that should work nicely. Got everything torqued down on that side cover, and the only thing left to do after I hand tighten this one into place is, you know, put my foot peg back on and reattach this this brake lever, and yeah, get this other piece of the side case put on. All right, we got everything put back together on this side, so the only thing left to do is put this back in place and tighten down those four bolts that we had taken off of there. Yeah, I think the last thing that I'll actually do is put a little bit of silicone inside of these two holes just to prevent water from filling into that housing right there. So all in all, it wasn't too bad of a project. It took a little bit of time, maybe a 2.5 hour project for me, just at the rate I was doing, videoing and filming my progress along the way, just so you guys kind of know what to expect when you get into it. The last thing that I'll do is add some fresh oil and get it right in between the hash marks, or right at that hash mark right there for my port on the inside. Yeah, but pretty easy, not too bad. Just takes a little bit of time, and you should be able to do it yourselves. Awesome. Well, hey, take care, and don't forget to like and subscribe.